Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, coming to you guys from the Parkway Tavern in Tacoma, Washington. My name is Matt McLaren, and I'm here, as always, with Sean Jackson.
Hello, everyone.
And Ron Swarner.
Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Ron. I should have done that too. So today we are sans a guest, but we are going to continue a series that we started a few episodes back called the Skoog Files. If you guys remember, we talked a little bit about that, and the reason we are calling this that is just the idea is that it's an exploration of the history of beer in Tacoma, of which there is kind of a rich, lengthy version, and Ron, being for sure the most historically literate of the three of us jackasses, is going to be the person taking us through it all. And then, like last time, Sean and I are just going to talk shit to him for the next like 40-ish minutes.
Sit here and look pretty and drink beer. That's what I'm doing today.
Yeah. I just sit here like crisscross applesauce listening to Ron teach.
Eyebrows have been trimmed. I'm ready. Let's do it.
But before we get into that, though, Ron in his wonderful outros every week asks people to send emails to our Grit and Grain email. And we get a few of them. We've gotten a few of them, and we got a super positive one this week. And we just want to say thanks to Justin for saying such nice stuff about how he's been connected to Tacoma and how he's not in Tacoma anymore, but he's been listening to the episodes and, here's a lot of the familiar names that he used to hear and hears us talk about all the beer he used to drink. And yeah, it was nice to see.
Yeah, Dustin and the folks and the whole family. I mean, minus the kids. Like, love those people. There's definitely a question. He was in New Orleans and had a cocktail drink with vodka and a variety of a slushy drink, I believe.
I think
blended
so.
Drink with vodka and other tropical assortments, and then a little bit of Tilquin in there.
Which is...
I just...
Sean's face
it just
when he read
unblasted
that.
one of my nips. Like, and like we were talking, like I've done some fucked up things to some great beer, but like I don't know. That's
putting a legendary lambic into a vodka cocktail.
They're living a lot higher life in New Orleans than I. Like, it's put Dom to my fucking in my dog's water. Like it's
Put Dom in my dog water.
It's not, I don't know. But, no, fucking awesome.
That's like
people,
the most
awesome
Kardashian
family.
thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That's how a Kardashian would enjoy like a Tilquin.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you again to Dustin for the very nice email. Actually, on the flip side, we got an awesome comment on our Apple Music reviews, and holy smokes, was it a doozy. Whoever Bias News Media is, which right there, we took it super seriously, says that we're obviously not very connected to Tacoma's beer scene. So you are welcome to email the Grit and Grain podcast email. Cheers at gritandgrainpodcast.com. If you really don't think we're connected to Tacoma, please reach out and tell us what you think we should talk about. Because I would love to have that conversation. Sweet. Well, so we kind of left off the last episode like right around when Prohibition started.
Yeah, about 1935.
Yes. And
What a great year.
I know. Jesus.
But Matt, I kind of want to back it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Do a couple things before, because
Back it up,
some
Ron.
things are mentioned. So I thought I wanted to start at 1916 when Washington State prohibition of the manufacture and sale of liquor began before the actual prohibition nationwide. Washington jumped out and did it early, and everything sucked. It was just awful.
Yep.
And then in 1919, Pacific Brewing, they had that San Francisco brewery they talked about. They reorganized as Tacoma Brewing, which is Tacoma Brewing in San Francisco. And that's when they introduced the Tacoma Brew, which is now the name of the flagship beer at E9, but it's a Kolsch.
Which is great.
Yeah. And the original Tacoma Brew was like a near beer. Then in it was.
Yeah, shit, that's right.
And then in 1925, the Tacoma Brewing sells its plant to Rainier. And the Rainier owners, they they start brewing the Tacoma Brew. And then in 1932, a group of investors buys the Columbia Brewery and for $100,000. And the wooden frame brewery is replaced by a larger concrete structure. And they brew a beer called Special Columbia Brew. And then in 1933, President Roosevelt signs the Volstead Act, amending the April 7th to allow people to have a beer or two, which while they wait for the 21st Amendment to be ratified. The first team of Budweiser Clydesdales are sent to the White House to give President Roosevelt a ceremonial case of beer. He asked for a case of pumpkin peach ale instead. The amendment was fully ratified on December 5th, 1933. Federal laws enforcing prohibition were repealed. April 7th is eventually dubbed National Beer Day. Mm. And then Columbia is the first Tacoma brewery to offer the public legal beer.
Yep.
So
not its only first, but it's first.
And then, so now we're at 1935. There's only 160 breweries in the nation. The beer can is introduced during Babe Ruth's last career game, playing for the Boston Braves against the Phillies. Philadelphia frat boy cuts a jagged hole in the beer can, awkwardly cranks his head sideways, and drinks the beer in 4.2 seconds. 1936, Columbia is the first Northwest brewery to introduce canned beer. Alt Heidelberg Guest Beer, it's called.
That's right.
And 41, the Columbia brewmaster Birkmeyer brews an ale, a top fermenting beer, and a first for the brewery. The Old English style ale immediately gained a following and remained popular for 17 years. They called it Columbia Ale instead of Old E. 1949, Columbia Breweries was restructured, changed its name to Heidelberg by choosing to continue to do business but they decided to keep the Columbia name.
Yeah.
They changed the name to Heidelberg, but they still represent themselves as the Columbia Breweries.
Which is
so weird.
So yeah.
But in 53, they said, "What are we thinking?" And they changed it to Heidelberg. And this is the time when they dropped the alt from the flagship brand and just called it Heidelberg Brew.
Which is what we
actually
all
beer.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we're all sitting here drinking Heidelberg. Yep. Just to,
Heidi ho!
Yeah. I was telling Ron about all the old commercials that they still have on YouTube, all the old Heidelberg commercials, and they are fucking exceptional. Just tremendous. There's like one from the 60s, a couple from the 70s, and one from the 80s. We should just watch them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys can totally YouTube those. They're great. But yeah, if you guys didn't catch that, Heidelberg was actually, it wasn't quite Heidelberg yet, but Heidelberg was the first brewery in the Northwest to actually put their beer into cans.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
They do well. They market it. They grow. They reach 750,000 barrels a year, and now they're the largest brewery north of San Francisco and west of Milwaukee. In 1954, they hoist the water tower on top of the brewery.
Yeah, the Heidelberg Tower.
Yeah. In 58, Carling Brewing of Canada purchases Heidelberg for $3.5 million. Ooh. This adds Carling Black Label and Red Cap Ale to the lineup and ended Columbia Ale, but not Columbia Beer. Heidelberg Beer remains its bestseller. In 65, Fritz Maytag uses part of a washing machine fortune to rescue failing Anchor Brewing in San Francisco. Then the same year, Albanian, right?
New Albion.
New Albion. That's right. Reorganized as the first microbrewery, opens in California with a 2-barrel system.
Also a great name for a brewery.
There's your craft beer.
Yep.
In 1971, Shakey's Pizza Parlor employees and fraternity brothers Jeff Iverson and Cal Chandler open up the Ram Pub in the Villa Plaza in Lakewood. I didn't see my dad again.
Oh, you took a thing and you made it sad.
But in 1973, I'm 10 years old, and I flip this thing over, and it says lists plus sun plus 2 plus y plus or plus L plus door plus S on the back of the Lucky Lager cap. And I'm rewarded with a sip from the Lucky Lager from my dad. That actually happened. I remember it.
Aww.
And if you put all that together, it says, listen to your elders.
That's pretty good.
In 76, Heidelberg owner Carling of Canada sells their American division, which merges with the National Brewing Company of Baltimore, creating Carling National Breweries Incorporated. In 77, Rainier Company is sold to La Crosse, Wisconsin-based G. Heilman Brewing, and which is the 7th largest brewery in the nation. In 79, that brewery gets busted for antitrust laws.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. They owning 2 major plants in such proximity gives the Heilman too large of a share of the regional market, and they're forced to close one of the plants. So in the spring in 1979, they freaking close Heidelberg
Yeah.
in this town.
True.
Yep.
Over it's like a technicality almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They bring in a salvage company, and they strip most of the historic significance and cause major structural damage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I found that out.
That's rude.
1980, Ken
I
Grossman.
might be underplaying that.
Yeah. In 80, Ken Grossman launches Sierra Nevada and Chico from a brew house. He built the brew house from dairy equipment.
From dairy
by
equipment.
hand from scratch.
Dude, he hand drilled, not to like,
Yeah.
he hand drilled the false bottom in his tank, like with, there's like 14,000 holes in his false bottom in his first tank, and he has pictures of like him hand drilling it. That's what's up.
Yep.
But, do a whole
but he
episode
brews
on
a
Sierra
stout.
Nevada, obviously.
He doesn't brew the pale, he brews the stout. And then after 10 batches, they finally brew pale that same year.
Mm-hmm.
In 81, Gordon Bowker and Paul Shipman established Red Hook Brewery in the old Ballard transmission shop with the goal of brewing Seattle a better beer. 82, the first Red Hook ale is poured at Jake O'Shaughnessy's in Lower Queen Anne. The initial
Cool.
beer had a fruity taste and quickly gained the cult following as a banana beer.
Yep. Banana bread beer.
That's right.
Yep.
In 83, kilt-wearing Burt Grant opens the Yakima Brewing and Malting Company, which is the first modern brew pub in our state and of the whole nation.
Yeah.
And there are 51 U.S. breweries on that day,
At
that
that
year.
time. Yep.
Anheuser-Busch, the Hillman we talked about, which was later bought by Stroh, which was later bought by Pabst, Coors, and Pabst. And they control 92% of all the beer in the nation.
On that day.
Yeah, in that
Yep.
year.
Yep.
Yeah. 83, Mike Hale,
Yep.
in the small town of Colville, 70 miles north of Spokane. He gathered investors and equipment and also did a lot of dairy equipment to build that thing. And it was a 10-barrel system.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of kids did that back then. I mean,
Did the dairy thing.
There wasn't really a lot of producers, especially I don't think in this country. There's a lot of German, and shit was expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one was investing in this yet, right?
Yeah. 84, Will and Mari Kemper join Andy Thomas and open up the Thomas Kemper Brewery in Paulsbo. And 88, we're back at Heidelberg. So the MCH partnership made up of Lester Collins, Thomas Haber-Seltzer, and Barry Mangalese, they buy the Heidelberg building. In the very late 80s and early 90s, the Heidelberg becomes a rave house. So kids would have glow sticks and they're tripping, but nobody knows. The city or the police do not know what's going on.
So was it still just like, it wasn't abandoned obviously, but it was
No.
just like a warehouse.
Yeah, they
Like,
bought
was
it.
just-
Lester started living in it, and then I'll get back to what happens next after we talk about 1889 when Rose and
1989.
Charles Finkel opened up Pike Place Brewing, as it was known
Yeah.
then, in the old Liberty Malt supply space under the market in Seattle. At that time, there were only 3 other craft breweries in Washington, and IPAs were hard to find. 90, George.
Yep.
So George and Jane Hancock from Maritime Pacific, they opened a small shop in Ballard, and sticking with the nautical theme, they brewed the Flagship Red, the Islander Pale, and Jolly Roger Christmas Ale, which they named the tap room after.
Freaking Jolly Roger.
Yeah. 91. So a young man from San Francisco moves to Tacoma. His name's James Bender. He strikes up a conversation. He's walking around in the district because he's living at the artist lofts in the Harmon, and he meets Lester, and which led to Bender moving into the Heidelberg. He moved into the kitchen and the cafeteria, 5,000 square feet, $750 a month.
That's insane.
Yeah. So he sets up his screen printing and art business, and he coined Visualize Tacoma. He's the one that created that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yep. And he started knocking out CD covers for grunge artists, including the Screaming Trees. He's also in charge of making sure that the tank on top of the roof is full of water, because that's where the toilet and sink water come from. and he has to use a giant wheel to open it up to make sure to look inside and
So
to
that's
fill
why
it.
the 750. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a railing. There was a railing on that tower, and he used to sit up there and drink beer and just chill and watch Tacoma.
That's fucking awesome.
But below him, it was still the seediest place.
sure.
Yeah.
Where all of the drug children were doing all their dancing and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then eventually, the next year, the Swiss opens, and that was basically where he ate all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a different episode.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
those gents were brave.
The mission was down there. Yep.
Yeah.
That was good times.
Oh, we got those episodes coming up too, just so
Yes.
you guys know.
So the Heidelberg becomes a band practice space, and people start moving in, and those bands start having shows, and including the King Black Acid came and played in there, and they used the old fermenters as percussion.
Oh, that's fucking outstanding.
Yeah, and then Lester would walk around dressed as Hugh Hefner. And just talk to people. In 92, Thomas Kemper merges with Hart Brewing, which went on to be Pyramid, and Will and Mari go on to be beer consultants on the East Coast and in Europe.
Yep.
And then 93, Fish opens in Olympia. It's owned by a ton of drinking customers who pooled their resources to build the thing because of artesian wells. And
Yep.
so it actually, Olympia was before E9 and the Harmon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
the tagline was literally "It's the water."
Yeah, exactly.
That's no bullshit. It really is the water. Super low minerality, very beer friendly water.
94, bands such as Seaweed and Portrait of Poverty are performing inside. Portrait of Poverty, which was the bass player was Flash. He's the one who booked all the Hell's Kitchen shows for years and years and years.
Oh my god.
And they used to practice in the 1,000-foot cooler, 1,000 square foot cooler
in
inside the building.
Heidelberg.
Yeah,
Holy
That's
shit.
where they performed.
I did not know that.
yeah. Bender started hosting turkey tricycle races around the building and concerts also. And then Bender's wife, Kate Shanneman, built a garden on the rooftop where they had garden parties.
Wow.
Nice.
Dude, this building was fucking happening.
Yeah, it was, and still nobody bugged them.
Yeah.
The city didn't bug them. The police didn't start raiding them yet.
Yet.
Yeah. That
Dun,
comes.
dun, dun.
Yeah. In 95, Dusty Trail converted the historic Engine House number 9 into a 7 barrels brew pub and brought back the Tacoma brew. The Ram launches their Bighorn Ram Brewing Company in Salem and wins gold at JABF for Total Disorder Porter. And eventually they built the one in Lakewood, the brew house.
Oh, yeah.
At the Ram. Okay. 1996. Concert promoter and Heidelberg resident Pony Tainter accidentally started a fire that just did massive damage. Article in the News Tribune described it as it spread on 2 floors of the warehouse, damaging 10,000 square feet where the bands used to play. The residents were evacuated. It basically marked the end of the Heidelberg, fire.
Did they ever find out how Pony started the fire?
I forgot. But
no, you didn't.
I did.
All right.
Actually, I can't remember.
I remember.
But everyone was pretty pissed off.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Pony.
I was Brian, Barry, and I were living at the top of Pacific on C Street, and we climbed up on our garage roof to watch the blaze. It was,
To watch it burn?
Oh yeah, it was spectacular. Well, we thought about running down to put it out, but I don't think we were gonna make it.
I remember hearing about it. My mom was in the industry at that time, and I like remember her talking about it, and like, yeah, she didn't know the whole history, obviously, but yeah, it was a huge deal.
Yeah,
but I was for
Yeah.
sure a child still, so I had no idea what I was hearing.
Yeah. And that alerted the city, alerted the police.
Yep.
Transients started, seeking shelter inside it. And,
Oh, jeez.
it was bad.
I still can't believe the thing about Flash that he put in there.
Yeah.
I grew up at Hell's Kitchen. Basically, I was there every fucking weekend.
Yeah. I was there
That's really fun.
every night
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
for a good 10 years, it felt like. In 97, Fred Roberson and Pat Nagel opened the Harmon Brewing downtown in the old historic Harmon Manufacturing Building, once the home of the largest furniture manufacturing company on this side of the Mississippi.
That was my stomping grounds.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. It doesn't come up a lot just because it was like so early. But my very first job was actually in this industry, and it was at the Harmon. I pretty much grew up in that building.
1999, Rainier is sold to Pabst, and the Seattle facility closes.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then we're going to jump way ahead to 2008, where Will and Mari opened Chuckanut in Bellingham. They hired Josh Freem to be the head brewer, and we all know he went on to open up
Oh yeah.
Freem Family Brewers in Hood River. In 2008, 2 tall glasses of water, Mike Runyon and Travis Gooderson, opened Seven Seas Brewing in downtown Gig Harbor. That same year, the current Heidelberg owners, Lester, and they brought in some Strand investors actually came in and purchased part of the building too.
Like after the fire.
After the fire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then presented their case to the Tacoma Landmark Preservation Commission to try to get it converted into a historical site. The commission noted that since the original building had been changed, altered, deconstructed, built again, and added to, there was no trace of the 1900 brewery left. So they didn't make it historic.
Rude.
Yeah. So
That's
the owners
crazy.
had 2 options: try to restore it or dismantle it.
Yeah.
And since the LPC passed on making the historical, the owners received the go-ahead from the city to demolish it. And it was at 2122 North or South C Street.
Yep. Think of all the raves we could have had there.
Yeah. 2009, Seven Seas catches on fire in downtown Gig Harbor because the neighboring buildings, their floor heater caught on fire and it burnt down.
I thought you were making a joke about how they were getting really popular just now.
No.
They actually caught on fire.
Yeah, so they started, they bought all the equipment, and it all caught on fire.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Holy shit.
It destroyed about 80% of their assets and equipment.
Damn.
So they moved into that secluded spot up the road on 56th Street, and they opened a 8.5 barrel system there. The place was kind of cool because it was kind of hidden in the woods.
A little
bit.
Yeah, it was like back off the. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, those are fun anniversary parties.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. In 2010, that November, the city's Public Works Department issued a dangerous building citation for the Heidelberg after an inspector noted that the roof was missing, unstable walls, open shafts, missing structural elements, lack of utilities, missing windows, loose and dangling building components, unstable equipment, unsafe electrical system, and standing water.
This is a fixer-upper, man.
Yep.
So that June 2011, the thing's demolished at a cost of $660,000.
Jesus.
And then Tacoma Historic Preservation Consultant Michael Sullivan sheds a tear.
I'm sure.
Because
Dude.
he was trying to also save it,
Yeah, of course.
and it just wasn't savable.
That's such a shame because it's like it was still the brewery. I like how their phrasing was like it's been dismantled.
Then in 2012, Seven Seas moves back to downtown Gig Harbor into the old QFC, and they add a 25 barrel system to their current 8.5. And 2014, Seven Seas opens up the Tacoma facility in the old Heidelberg bottling and shipping warehouse.
2014?
2016.
2016, that's
Yep.
right.
Which was built in the 50s. The 80,000 square foot new brewery and tap room, it's in the Tacoma Historic Brewery District, sports a 10,000 square foot basement where Seven Seas adds a bottling line, cooler, barrel room, loading dock, and a sea of cans. In 2019, E9 locates to the brewery district, and then brings the Tacoma brew. And then in 2021, Heidelberg is brewed by Seven Seas.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
And Tacoma burps in unison.
Circle of life. That's awesome.
That was actually perfect timing because it's break time. We're back. As always, want to give a quick shout out to Channel 253. Our wonderful producer, Doug, is Channel 253, and we appreciate everything he does for us every single week. And we've gotten a lot of very nice comments about how this podcast sounds very well produced, even though it's very new, and that's all because of Doug and Channel 253. So they have a group of podcasts run by community members and community leaders that talk about all of the things that are important around Tacoma as a community. And if you want to stay connected and support those guys, you absolutely should go to channel253.com/membership.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Membership.
Thanks
Is
for
that
making
what
us sound good.
turd polishing is? I think it is.
I take 1 week off and I forget everything. But thank you as always, Doug. So yeah, obviously the first half of this, you guys kind of got like another sort of like a bridge continuation of like the beer history in Tacoma in the Northwest, and then kind of how it contributed to the beer history across the country. Ron skipped over all kinds of little things that he left Easter eggs in there for you guys.
I was worried that we weren't going to make it through, so I blazed.
That's okay. Easter eggs are good. One of the Easter eggs actually, so he mentioned Seven Seas, like while they were being built, caught on fire, much like Heidelberg did. Seven Seas and Heidelberg actually have a bunch of weird little connections. It is like, so, you know, for anybody who doesn't know, he did just mention, obviously, but Seven Seas produces Heidelberg now out of the original like packaging and shipping building, because the actual brewery is the thing that burned down. But so they produce Heidelberg beer in an original Heidelberg facility, and it kind of seems like they were destined to do that. But we were talking before this episode about how they actually share a very similar accolade in the packaging side. And what is that accolade, Ron? So in 1936, Heidelberg was the first can
Yes.
of beer produced in the Northwest.
Oh my gosh. Drinking too many Heidelbergs. Yes. And Seven Seas was the first in Washington State to produce a canned beer.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's like Seven Seas, the same Seven Seas that's sitting in downtown Tacoma in fucking 2010.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy because it just was not that long ago.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was Oscar Blues was obviously the first one in the nation to produce the can.
Yes.
Yeah,
Dale's.
Blues was getting after it.
But was
And then
Seven Seas
21st
just the
Amendment,
next
right?
one?
They were the first in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder how close. Can't
21st
remember.
Amendment was freaking hot on that case too.
Nice.
Yeah.
They were. Remember that?
Yep. Kendall wrote about it like in 2010 when it was happening, and it was like the joke because Obama was president. The joke was yes, we can, because in 2010 everything was bottles and cans kind of had like this weird pejorative like affiliation with craft beer. Everybody thought that beer in cans tasted metallic and weird, which it probably did for a while when can technology was like primitive. But yeah, Heidelberg was the first P&W brewery to put their beer in a can, and Seven Seas, who now produces Heidelberg, was the first Washington craft brewery to put their beer in a can, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, these guys were destined to work together. But yeah, Ron skipped over a couple of things.
Yeah.
But that's okay. There's Easter eggs in there. One of the ones you guys might have heard that somebody started had garden parties on top of the Heidelberg building.
Yes.
You want to go through that again, Ron?
Yeah. So Kate Shanneman's my wife.
In case y'all missed that.
She changed her last name to Swarner. But yeah, she and James lived. James lived there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And she, I think, probably 4 years she lived there.
So your wife lived at the old Heidelberg
Yep.
building,
And
and
so-
she was the one who started the gardens.
She did.
Yep.
Absolutely. And they had a ton of
Just
parties.
blow right over that shit.
Yeah, they had a ton of parties on the roof. She was really proud about her garden, and she was getting the water from the tower.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was a huge music scene happening there. There was a organization called the Tacoma Music Coalition, which I was on, and we would have our meetings in the Heidelberg, and we would sit in the cafeteria and look towards where the kitchen used to be, behind these this glass, and James Bender was in there just making T-shirt after T-shirt after T-shirt while we were having the meetings.
Damn, dude.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So you spent a bunch of time there yourself.
I did.
That's fucking rad. I had no idea that it was so connected to like Tacoma's like kind of OG music scene.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. What time was that? You said 80s, 90s?
About between 92 and 94.
Okay. Damn, that's fucking rad.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the popular or all the grunge bands in Tacoma would either be practicing there or having shows
Yeah.
or just hanging out.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
So to go back to the last point too, so when Ron mentioned that it was 2008 when Seven Seas caught on fire, and obviously like Heidelberg did, and that was the same year you said that Heidelberg, the people who owned Heidelberg, were actually campaigning to get it transitioned into a historical landmark.
Correct.
That was the exact same year.
Yeah.
And the city said no because it had been quote unquote dismantled, which is another way of them saying it was burned from the inside. Yeah.
Also, in 2015, the Craft Brewers Conference was in Portland, and I'm hanging out with Mike Runyon from Seven Seas. We're at the Mudhoney show as part of the conference.
Appropriate.
And we look at each other, and we both have these huge secrets. So I can't remember which one of us. I think he said, "Hey, we're going to move into the Heidelberg Brewery," and I said, "Hey, I'm going to start Peaks and Pints." and about a year later, we kind of both did it.
That's very sweet. How can you not be romantic about beer, man?
Yeah. While Mudhoney was saying "suck this" or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
Sean's like, yeah. yeah, shoot, man. I was, dude, when Seven, like, obviously I don't have any memories of Heidelberg like that. Like, but I, like, just being in the industry, I kind of knew of the impact that it had on, like, the world that I was trying to operate in now as, like, a member of the community and industry in Tacoma. And, like, seeing Seven Seas bring it back and, like, seeing the can, like, when they first posted a picture of the can, I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, it was not even being that tied into it, I was still just like, holy shit. Like, it felt like such a big deal. And, yeah, even just reading more just to, like, talk to you guys about it, I was just like, man, that's crazy. First of all, it's crazy how connected they were. And it's crazy, like, how much Heidelberg as, like, an institution and even just as a vacant building contributed to Tacoma and to the Pacific Northwest.
Absolutely. And those Seven Seas also has collected an incredible collection of Heidelberg memorabilia.
Oh, it's all on their wall right there, right?
Yeah, everything, including the student prince. The student prince was Heidelberg's mascot,
Oh, the mascot,
if you will.
that's right.
And it was a silent film, and then because it was a story about a Austrian royal hitting on a barmaid of some sort, something like that. And Heidelberg decided, well, this is going to be our mascot. And they it was casted and put it above the door at the Heidelberg. And it's sitting there in Seven Seas right now.
Their mascot was like a big old bar creep. Like, times they are changing.
Yeah.
My boss is a fan of the Heidelberg paraphernalia too, and I feel like anytime there's something like what I want to do is like, because I know like he and Mike have a relationship that's like built on their love affair for, Heidelberg history and all the things that they can scrounge up. So they bond on it. But I always wish that I knew of some website where things were open for bidding so I could just punt them up. Like both of them.
Yeah.
250. Let's go 670.
Let's just see what happens here.
Yeah, come on. This. It's.
Do you guys remember what Heidelberg's like famous descriptor of their beer was in their commercials? We were talking like during the break, we had an actual commercial break, and we were talking about some of the old commercials that Heidelberg used to have on, which again, you should absolutely go watch because they're great. But they had like a very like famous like sensory descriptor for their beer for a long time, and they referred to their beer as having a velvet tang, which is my favorite thing ever. I have yet to apply that professionally or during my Cicerone exams. Yeah, see? Oh, it's the beer with the velvet tang. That's what they said. Which is my favorite.
Yeah, who's got time for silk? You know what I'm saying? Velvet is the new
tang.
silk.
New band name, I call it.
Nice.
That sounds like it would have been in the name of a band that practiced in the Heidelberg building.
For sure.
I like Mike's. If you guys were following along when Heidelberg kind of first came back, Evening Magazine did a kind of a profile on the release, and Mike Runyon, who is the owner of Seven Seas, as Ron mentioned, actually brought up kind of like what his interpretation of like the significance of this beer was in Tacoma, and like we've talked about it on the podcast, is like Tacoma's always been like, you know, a port town, which and a huge like shipping town and railroad town and export town, and that means that it's also very much like a blue collar town, which is why beer became so popular in the first place. And like his exact words were like, this beer represents like the grit that exists in this city, and like we want to be a steward of that spirit. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to say that. Like, and I was like, oh, it's like, you know, we joke about it, but that is very much the ethos of the podcast. Is like beer takes all kinds of things, and grit is probably among the most demanding to be any kind of successful in this community and industry. And yeah, it was like cool. I mean, this was a couple of years ago now, before any of us were really talking about that. And he was like, this beer represents the grit that you know this city is famous for.
The News Tribune also did a story on the whole thing and interviewed our Sean Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because we were first delivery.
Right.
Yeah.
Why
makes
was
sense.
that, Sean?
I mean, I would say because we're old as fuck, and based also on Jeff and Mike's relationship. Like, they both had Heidi boners for a long time.
But
So
Heidelberg,
it's like,
people are drinking Heidelberg here, right?
yeah, it's actually old enough to have served it
Been
at some
consumed.
point.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like Mother Tree.
Yeah.
Sitting at the bar drinking Heidelberg at the Parkway is different because there's a good chance you're sitting in the same fucking seat and drinking the exact same beer that somebody drank
Yeah.
over 100 years ago.
Right.
Like there's a total possibility that that's the case,
And
which is bananas.
We've got a lot of, not a lot, but a lot of folks that have, get a lot of, my dad worked at Heidelberg stories. A lot of them, and it's wonderful. I always came home smelling like hops. Like,
That's great.
We have Rich Jameson in the house tonight watching us, and his grandfather was the regional sales manager for Heidelberg.
No
yes.
shit.
Yeah.
Of course. See,
Of course.
of course. Of course this is in your blood.
yep.
Rich has represented Rogue and currently Bowie.
Yeah.
So he's definitely in the biz
Oh, yeah.
selling.
And many other
And that's where he
breweries.
got his chops.
Rogue was another dairy tank brewery. Yep. Fuck yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
A lot of them were. It was like, it's how you did it. It's how you came up. Get that shit on the cheap and grew into better equipment. That is, yep.
The dairy equipment brewery. That's like a good. It like perfectly represents the age.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you think about it, like, there was big breweries and then there wasn't much else. So, like, where are you going to get equipment that fits your business model format? You're not buying used shit from, not like today where you can get things 30 cents on the dollar used.
True.
It's not how it was. Or
none
you
of
could
those
pay
guys are
for
like-
shipping from Germany.
It was
Your
such a-
options were limited.
It's crazy how different that time was, where it was like nobody was producing this stuff, nobody was like manufacturing this equipment except for like in Germany, but like at least when breweries like Rogue and those guys started out and had to use dairy equipment, but like Heidelberg was in like a state of the art facility like 80 years prior in like super expensive, very nice like manufactured and engineered tanks, and that was like. It's a good illustration of the difference between like we talked about in the first Skoog Files was like, going from 4,000 breweries in the country in the 1890s down to like 50 when some of like the first craft breweries opened up in the Northwest. Like the industry had completely collapsed. Which is crazy to think about. And then it's like we're drinking a beer that like when it was first produced 100 years ago was made in big fancy things. And then not in milk tanks.
Yeah. And Burt Grant, I mean, first microbrew pub in the nation was here.
Yeah, so that's
Yakima.
I've heard that before, and I didn't even think about it until you said it. But that's like, that's a crazy because that's such a pillar business model now is like the brew pub model.
Yeah.
Like the reason that there are so many breweries again, and we finally exceeded that 4,000 number is because brew pub is like an actual sustainable business model. The way that it was back like pre-prohibition. It's crazy.
I think Bridgeport was right on his heels, though. There's not a lot of, as far as because I think they also went brew pub right out the gate, and kind of I think the difference between them and Woodmer, because they both kind of at the same time, like that Portland blossoming, and Portland brewing, but I think Bridgeport was first in Portland and.
And
Bert didn't get him by much.
Wasn't McMenamin's like the training ground for a lot of those people? Did the Whitmere start there? I can't remember.
I got nothing.
Gotcha.
I got no relevant information.
Future
on that.
episodes.
Future episodes.
Sean, when did you find out about Heidelberg being reproduced?
Not very long before it happened.
Before you got it?
Yes.
How did you feel?
Oh, fantastic. I think it's, we talk about the representation in our town, and I think it's a big deal. I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a good job with it.
Yeah.
I think it should be in every bar in town, and kind of spread its way throughout our state. And I mean,
That'd be pretty cool, man.
that'd be very cool. But like I said, operating an old ass bar, like, of course I love it. Like, it's, I love the nostalgia and the old feel, and like it's great. And it's just another reason to be proud of our city.
The city helped help Seven Seas open up that brewery. So I think they had a special program, and I think banks had special programs that helped the kids open that thing. And,
Oh, no way.
And start, really bring back the historical brewery district.
That's
they wanted it to be a thing.
Yeah.
And they made sure it happened.
like almost, well, no, a little over 100 years after it was sort of like first coined the brewery district in Tacoma. Like they had started rebuilding it to be that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now it has to be the brewing district.
I know,
right?
there's no, yeah.
I mean,
I mean, like,
there's a
but
sign.
You can't open to best of my knowledge, you can't open a brewery in town
very true.
outside of there.
Right.
Yep.
Because
So it's cool, but it's also, to me, kind of a dick move. I'll be honest. Like, oh, look at this revitalization.
Yeah.
Fuck your freedom. Like, you have to. This is where you have to operate.
It's only happening
You have to
here.
compete in a place where everybody is.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine. I don't know. I think it's a great way to revitalize the neighborhood. I still think I fucking hate rules, and I think it's assholey.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. 2 cents right there.
That's fine. What about you, Ron? When you first found out about Heidelberg being remade and like being canned and like its original packaging and things like that, like what was going through your head?
Me sitting there at the Heidelberg drinking beer when I was 20 something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It brought back good memories. I had actually, it's more it was more like 30. Because I'm old as fuck.
It's all right, Ron. Live your truth, man.
No, it was wonderful, and kudos to Mike and Travis for making it happen. I think that was the plan for quite a while. That when they bought that building, they wanted to bring it back.
Yeah.
And they freaking did it. Yeah, it's special.
Seriously.
This is amazing too. Like, you look at big breweries now, and it's just like you look at the older breweries, and like the footprint that a brewery used to take. Like you burned down the main fucking building and got demolished, and still you have this giant space.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like I still haven't been to the St. James Gate, but I mean a lot of those breweries are like that. Like the footprint and all the different facilities and the amount of people that they employed.
Dude, yeah. So actually,
That's
Mike,
super relevant.
he mentions that too, and he's like, like this town was a big working class town, and one of the largest job creators was this fucking brewery for the longest time.
Absolutely.
And like that's there's probably generational wealth that still exists in this town that was started by people working at this brewery, which is crazy. And like now those people maybe who even benefited from that and are passing it on can like drink this beer again. Like the Ron's comment about like sitting at the actual brewery and like drinking beer in his 20s or 30s. There's a lot of people like in this town that this beer like personally affects in a way. It was the first beer that like they tried fishing with their dad or whatever, like when they were a kid, you know what I mean? Like there's a crazy like innate emotional connection, and like it's tough to imagine. I don't have that myself, obviously, but it's tough to imagine like,
You don't like fishing?
those guys not. No, I don't have the personal connection.
You don't have a dad?
We'll talk later.
Yeah, fair enough. Am I your dad?
Wait, how long have you been
I
here?
have questions. Oh, I had a Sean Kemp streak. Don't you worry about it. Not really. Not really. Not really.
Nip
God.
a blast in Jackson.
Hey, Nips
But
been
there's,
blasting so long, though.
There's
I
a
feel
huge
like
chunk of this town that has such a deep connection to this fucking beer, and it was like, I wish I could like be in the room when those dudes like first got to crack a fresh can of this stuff. Like that's awesome. I know Well, yeah, shit. We're running low on time.
Okay.
Ron, thank you so much for the
Absolutely.
amazing.
It's fun to do. It's fun to reminisce.
Fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm reading to try and prep for some of this shit, and I still learn everything. I'm still learning with everything that you're reading.
Awesome.
We would be remiss if we did not bring up the actual Skoog before we
Since we call this the Skoog Files.
We call this Skoog Files.
Yeah.
So again, to kind of explain where that comes from, the Skoog is kind of an infamous and mysterious speakeasy that existed in Tacoma during Prohibition. Much like the Parkway, maybe, I don't know, who knows? Much like the Parkway and other house-shaped buildings that were probably serving beer at that time.
Right.
The Skoog was very well known for being a blind pig.
Yeah.
During those years, and we've been kind of slowly trying to uncover the mystery of this place. And so the last time we heard that it did still exist.
It does exist, and through friends, the owner has reached out to us and wants us to hang out with them.
Yeah, hang out with them.
So I'm just waiting for the invite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not quite official, but like it sounds like. So we were reached out to by folks who we are pretty sure know the owner, and like he heard us talking about it, and like,
Yeah.
So yeah, we might actually be talking to somebody pretty soon with a direct connection to this place.
Nice.
But we do know that it still exists. It is
Yeah.
still a place here. I don't know that it's still serving beer to people because I've never delivered to them. But
Ding dong.
I know, right? Like an actual doorbell.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're actually gonna keep pursuing this as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And try to uncover a little bit of mystery. People have talked about this place for a long time. People have hunted it down for a long time. You can even find little stories of people like exploring Tacoma trying to find it. And we might be closer than most people have gotten. So we're gonna keep everybody posted as this develops. But yeah, shit, Ron, thank you again for the wonderful history recap.
My pleasure.
Again, that was kind of like an abridged version. We're gonna have some more on Heidelberg and more beer history stuff in Tacoma and how much this industry has impacted this town and this community in future Skoog Files episodes. But Ron, you ready to take us out?
All right, Grit and Grainers. Email us at cheers@gritandgrainpodcast.com with your comments, opinions, and drawings of movie scenes using Clockwork Orange, Pretty in Pink, and Black Yellow colored crayons on one of those tacky paper restaurant placemats. We read and drink everything we receive, and we try to respond as quickly as can. If not online, then on air. You can subscribe to Grit and Grain on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher, and please leave us a review. Also, check us out on Channel 253 and gritandgrainpodcast.com. Be sure to also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for photos of us working the deep down itch in our calves that screams to be scratched. And we hold off for just a few precious moments knowing we could itch it whenever we like to because the buildup is some sort of torturous, succulent pleasure in and of itself. And we wait, and then we can't wait any longer, and we give it a scratch, and we scratch. And that makes the relief so much more orgasmically pleasurable. We actually swoon and we moan out loud because life is nothing if not all about the small, tortuous, pressurized pressures that we allow ourselves, especially when all the others are denied or mutated or co-opted by bad actors hawking toxic anti-itch creams and trying to destroy our delicious itch buzz. If this podcast is not what you expected, please alter your expectations.
That's where you say that?
Please be sure to visit Heidelberg student Prince at 7 Seas because he's all smiles after his student loan was waived. There's no such thing as a bad time to visit Tacoma. There's no such thing as too much barley wine.
Amen.
Tune in next Friday for more sweet chatter. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Pony Tanner!
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Grit and Grain is part of the Channel 253 podcast network. Check out our other shows: Nerd Farmer, Interchangeable White Ladies, Move to Tacoma, Crossing Division, Citizen Tacoma, What Say You, We Are Tacoma, Flounders B Team, and Tacoman.
This is Channel 253.